Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Alter Confusion Thursday Night Hangout.
Thursday night!
Woo! This time, of course, we are featuring the one and only Craig Campbell, mastermind behind Murders and Acquisitions, which is currently in campaign mode on Kickstarter, which, of course, all you need to do is go to Kickstarter.com and then type in Murders and Acquisitions. Can they also type in Craig Campbell? Will that go straight to that as well?
I honestly don't know.
I don't remember.
I've never Googled myself on the Kickstarter.
Dominoes.
Julius is going to find out for you. Anyways.
Thanks for the introduction, asswipe.
You're welcome. Zelius, how are you doing? All right. Craig, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Everything's chugging along.
Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, real quick. I know that this is still not yet making an impact, but I'm still going to do it. I'm going to hashtag the do. I'm seriously like on the verge of making a compilation video of me basically pouring Mountain Dew into my cup at the beginning of every single Thursday Night Hangout, which would be...
I have breaking news. I don't really care about your Mountain Dew.
Oh, for long
and it turns yes. If you go to Kickstarter and type in Craig Campbell, and the first hit is Murders and Acquisitions, there's also a second project for not-winning football basketball fans.
That's not me. That's not me.
Wait, you mean that's not you?
You can back it if you want to. Sure. It's a free markets enterprise going on here. You feel free.
It could be, choose your poison. You want the football mask or Murders and Acquisitions?
You want to back my game first.
Yeah.
Then you get the football mask.
Absolutely. All right, so let's... Oop, no, that's not right. Where'd it go?
I don't know, man. What'd you do to it?
Stop breaking the computer.
I don't
We
know.
like chewy sweet tarts.
No, it's not really
Yes,
chewy.
please.
It's actually really tough.
But they're good.
It's like
I'll have
crunchy.
a
But
few of
anyways, have some... All right, ladies and gentlemen, the main topic of this
It
night's
is
Thursday...
chewy after you let it in your mouth for a minute.
Okay, I'm just going to let that go. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, tonight's Thursday Night Hangout is all about Murders and Acquisitions.
That was all
So,
about me.
to start off... What?
That was all about me tonight.
No, it's not. It's never about you, Zelius.
Screw you, Craig. Stealing my spotlight.
All right, anyways, tonight is all about Murders and Acquisitions. So we're going to start off with a topic that we have in previous conversations with Craig gone over, but I feel like we once again have to go over it for those individuals who may not know who Craig Campbell is. So who is Craig Campbell?
This guy's sitting there.
I know he's him, but let's go a little deeper.
How do you spell
I
his
was
name?
born on a snowy evening in Peshtigo, Wisconsin, and that's true.
I thought it was during a nice dusk walk on the beach. Oh shit.
No, it was in snow-ridden late March in Wisconsin. No, I'm a RPG player. I've been playing since college. I started designing a little bit for RPGs, doing some freelance work back in like 1999, 2000 with Living Greyhawk. I wrote an adventure for that when 3rd edition D&D came out. I did a few things here and there over the course of the next several years. About 7 years ago, I was doing a few things here and there for the RPGA for Dungeons & Dragons, and then I got laid off from my day job, and that was the best thing that ever happened to my RPG freelance career, and is quite possibly responsible for this game even existing. Because if I hadn't got into doing more RPG freelancing because I needed supplemental income because I was laid off for a while, my RPG freelancing wouldn't have built up. I wouldn't have started to get more experience, and then ultimately led me to the position where I decided, okay, I'm going to do my own game.
So guys, so the RPG freelancing, do you mean like companies would pay you to do like freelancing work for them, or how does that kind of work with RPG freelancing?
Well, I would get. I mean, most of what I wrote was for Dungeon Magazine Online or Dragon Magazine Online. I wrote a few things for the RPGA. One article for Dungeon Magazine when it was still in print with Pineville Publishing. I've written a little bit for Pathfinder, a little bit for Gamma World when Wizards of the Coast put out that little Gamma World thing over the course of about a year, based off the 4th edition D&D rules. And then most recently, I've been writing a little bit for Iron Kingdoms, and it's basically sometimes it was pitches where I would pitch stuff to the magazines, and they, if they liked the idea, I would go ahead and write that, and we'd contract out for that. Sometimes it was assignments. Once I started to get known a little bit, it turned into assignments where I would get somebody coming after me and saying, hey, we need somebody to write this. Are you interested? Or I would get sometimes like they'd come at me and say, we need an article for this column and an article for that column. Pitch one for each, and then I'd get one of them. And then they, somehow somebody else would get one of the other ones, one of the other freelancers.
So this would be like all work out your house that you're doing?
It was all, just all over my house, just on the laptop. completely freelance. At the end of the year, I'd get 1099 for independent contractor to report my income and all that.
It's a pain in the ass to get
I've never been an employee of any of the game companies.
It's a pain in the ass to get a mortgage with only 1099s. I found out.
I imagine.
Because that mortgage company's like, you don't actually have income. It's like, wait, no, I do. I just don't kind of have the 1099.
It's all over here in this other thing.
Yes.
So that's where that all started, and then that kind of rolled into when Wizards of the Coast and D&D, which was most of my freelance work at the time, a few years ago, started to ramp down 4th edition. Not so much in their product, but they started doing more system agnostic stuff because they were not putting out a lot of rule stuff for 4th edition because they were in-house playtesting 5th edition and getting ready for that. So my freelancing kind of dried up, and I decided, okay, it's as good a time as any is to just shift myself into the mode of designing my own game, and so I started doing that about 2.5 years ago, kind of shortly after that freelancing for Wizards of the Coast dried up, and I've done a few things here and there since then, just occasionally, but the bulk of my design time for RPG stuff has gone into mergers and acquisitions over the course of the past couple of years.
Nice. So when you say like bulk of your time, are you spending like, generally speaking, like 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours? I'm saying spread out over,
It comes in bursts, because I've discovered that when it comes to these things, you can only get it done as fast as you can get playtesting turned around. So I'll like the first initial burst of writing rules was boom, 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 lots of free time spent on that.
Yeah.
Then I would playtest a little bit, and I'd boom, 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 and I'd do a bunch of adjustments. And then eventually I started getting groups of playtests outside of just my friends, friend groups, and those took a little longer to turn over. Okay. So I'd be kind of waiting for that to happen, and meanwhile I'd be kind of outlining some other things for the future, thinking a little bit about where things are going to go, and then once I got feedback back from the playtesters, then it would be adjustments to the rules and a little more design work on the next thing that needs to be done, and then roll on, and then again I'd hit kind of a slow spot with playtesters, and that's not blaming the playtesters. It's just when you're a one-man shop, there's only so much. There's only one game, and you're waiting for feedback. It takes how long it takes.
So one of the things that I think I'm grasping here is that you had a nice balance of you kind of basically laid the groundwork and then let people test it outside of, friends and family, maybe even outside of that, and then you kind of not I don't want to say that the testers basically then changed your direction, but you took all kinds of comments and criticisms that kind of helped build a stronger foundation than you could build upon for mergers and acquisitions.
Yes, because when you're designing something like this, you get too close to it, and there's two aspects of playtesting that become important. First is just the rules and how the game plays,
right? And
making sure that maybe somebody notices something. Well, if you do this, this, and this, it suddenly becomes weird and unbalanced. Or if you do, this thing seems like just not a really great option. Is there any way we can spice it up?
Right.
Or this seems like an option that everybody's going to take. Is there any way to kind of tone it back so that it becomes a fair option? Does the system work? Are there things that we can do with the system that make it more interesting? And then there came a point kind of halfway through the whole process where I had to start transforming the whole thing into less a series of notes and descriptions of what was going on, where it was almost, it started in bullet point outline format. Eventually it had to become a game book that somebody could read and be taught the game. And for somebody, for the designer, it's really easy to screw that up because you are so close to the game and everything about the game that it's easy for you to miss. Like, well, I just described all these things, but I missed 3 key elements, and these other 2 elements were presented in the wrong order. And so people get confused because I started describing something, I started referring to something up here that doesn't get described for 4 more pages. So I need to flip that. I need to get something presented earlier in the book.
At least with video games, I know something we talk about very often on the podcast is people doing their indie games, and it's like their QA department is like themselves and their best friend. And
or it's the same people who started the entire process all the way to the end. So they learn all the quirks and kinks, and they learn how to basically navigate around it.
So by the time they get to the final product, that comes out, and then people outside of their little sphere of influence play the game. You're like, what the hell is this?
This is missing. Why can't I get from here to there?
And for people
this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the QAers are like, no, it makes perfect sense. But to the other 99%, they're like, no, it doesn't.
And the same thing goes for at the tail end editing. How
many times have you read your own text?
What?
How many times have you read your own text?
My own text? 100
Yeah.
at least. You know, at the end, you get a completely new set of eyes on it. In fact, I had 2 different sets of eyes go, look at this. I had somebody who was much more focused in technical editing, and has worked on numerous RPGs, and has worked, you know, has worked on editing for numerous RPGs and the rule systems and everything too. And that was Chris Sims, who's done a lot of work for Wizards of the Coast, and now he's got his own little shop. He's moved off to Europe somewhere, in the wilds of Europe. And then I had another person who's from. Normally she's the editing chief, or I'm not sure if I got the title right, but she works in conjunction with Third Eye Games. And she came on and did a bunch of copy editing for some of the more flavor stuff. She looked at a lot of narrative information and flavor stuff and went through and cleaned up the text there. So, you know, it became, you know, kind of specialized looks at different things by people who were right for that job.
So, question about that, and I don't know if you can actually want to answer this, but have you ever, say you got your editors, have you ever been in a conflict like your editor says, Craig, I think you should change this. You're like, no, you're crazy. I'm not changing. And I can understand if you don't want to answer
Chris, that's happened multiple times. If you read the book, you'll see where I didn't take your advice.
Okay, so that does happen when there's a definite conflict of, no, I'm not changing that because this is what it needs to be. Okay.
I mean, and that goes to playtesting too. There's some suggestions that get made in playtesting where I say, no, I don't agree with that. And, you know, in this case, you know, it's my game. It's all on me. If, you know, if I put this game out and I get 20 people come back at me and saying, hey, you know, you should have done this, and it was the thing that Chris pointed out. All right.
Right.
Vindication for Chris. I'll own it. I'll eat it. And, you know, it is what it is.
You can buy it in the DLC there.
So where would you say in the process of creating Mercs and Acquisitions, did you have the confidence to really basically hand off your baby, your creation, to a different individual, to Game Master, to DM, whatever you want to call it?
It was a little over, I want to say it was roughly 6 months in when I felt confident enough to hand it off to some early playtest groups outside of myself, running stuff. And that was, it started with people that I knew and trusted, and who I knew were experienced GMs, so that I could give them a rougher version that was a little more outline style, that they would be able to grasp all of that. And then, you know, as we went further along, it started to become more and more people that I didn't know. Like I found people on the internet, and I would just went out to different sites and said, hey, I'm looking for play testers, and they would message me or email me. And I got people who I didn't have any prior relationship with, looking through things. But that came more at about a year in before I started. And that was the point where I started to have the game in better shape. And it changed quite a bit. I mean, it went through a complete, I don't want to say a redesign, but it went through a strong reorganization about 4 or 5 months ago, 4 months ago. And then it took, then it got the editing pass from Chris, and then that shifted a bunch of things around too, to the final version, which is done. No more editing.
So White Kid on the Twitch stream, he wants to have an 80 level character. Now, from my time playing playtests of Mercs Acquisitions, there's not really a leveling mechanic in there. So there's no 80th level characters that can be running around.
No.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I played Mercs and Acquisitions a couple times too, and the lack of leveling mechanic, really, that's the first time it ever actually occurred to me. Well, it's so true, but in playing it, but to me that's a testament of the gameplay. Where it's not like, man, this is missing. Where's the leveling aspect? You know what I mean? It's
a character point buy system.
Yeah, and to me that's definitely pro. That it's not like, where the hell is this? You're missing something. You know what I mean?
You'll gain character points and you'll improve your scores kind of as you see fit, rather than having to take a series of set abilities that level-based games usually have, where when you become a third level fighter, you get these things.
I'd actually like to take a little bit of a different spin on the Mercs and Acquisitions.
Wax Kid, we're getting to you.
But one sec, White Kid. The thing that I think is kind of like a leveling up process for me personally when I play Mercs and Acquisitions is that I kind of, the more I play, the more I guess I'm allowing my imagination to open up. So I can basically then see additional things of how to better use my skills. So in the way I'm through my personal experience, I'm leveling up to to be a better mergers and acquisitions character without even putting the upgrade points into effect, personally.
Right.
Okay, White Kid, what was the most stressful part of the process of making mergers and acquisitions?
The most stressful part was getting this thing funded inside the first 3 days. I was very confident in the design. It had been play tested to death. It went through editing. You know, the few things that I didn't agree with on the editors, I was like, okay, I'll just take that onto myself. I had preliminary artwork. People seemed to like it. I had artists lined up for everything. I had layout lined up. I had all this other stuff squared away. And I was planned up the wazoo. And then I hit the button at 9 o'clock in the morning last Tuesday. And,
At
you know, I had
9:05, you had your first thing from an Alter Confusion.
and then it hit half funded at 3.5 hours.
Yep.
And I breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Mhm.
And it rolled a little bit, and then it kind of sputtered
And it just
for a good
sat
portion of the rest of Tuesday. And Wednesday came around and it got a little bit, and then it kind of sputtered. It was like there was like 8 hours on Wednesday, 8 hours in the daylight
Mhm.
of 0 pledges, and then stress.
Oh my God.
And then I started looking into all that extra backer level, and if you've been following it since the beginning, you know that there was some backer levels added, and that brought some more money, and we made a big push, and people started to share it around, and I made a big promotional push, and we funded then on Thursday evening, right around the time this show was ending last week, right around
That's
9
right.
o'clock in the
We
evening.
did the final push.
So during this Kickstarter, how often were you checking to see what your funding levels are at?
During during the first like 4 days or so, when I was pushing to get through the funding and hit the first stretch goal, because we hit the first stretch goal a day after we hit the funding, owing in great part to the momentum that had been built up to get to the funding,
Right.
And the fact that the stretch goal was a little lighter than what I had kind of initially planned. I put it low so that we would hit the first stretch goal, so
Right.
everybody would feel good, like,
So
boom,
that was kind of
funded,
intentional.
stretch goal. Everybody's something extra's going in. You know, we all feel good, and everything moves forward from there. What was the question?
So your funding, that was kind of an intentional funding level to get that kind of positive
Yes.
feedback. Okay. Cool.
To swing that, and then as far as like during that first 4 days, I was checking every 10 minutes while I was awake. Lately, now we've hit kind of the lull period. If you know anything about Kickstarters, you know that they tend to run on a U-shaped curve. They're really fast at the beginning, and they kind of tail off and they roll, and they just kind of slowly trickle along, and they move along, and sometimes you get little spikes here and there, and then they pick up again at the end, and we're kind of in that
Well,
lull
you pray
period.
that it picks up at the end.
Oh yeah. But you kind of just kind of roll along kind of slowly, and that's where we're at right now. So, and I know that's how it's going to be, and I'm okay with it being that way. So I'm not checking as constantly as I was,
Only every 10 minutes instead of.
No, it was every 10 minutes initially. I would say I'm once an hour. When I was at work, I had stuff to do. I was at work today, so I was working on stuff, and I'd check about every hour or so. So.
Right on.
All right, so I have a couple questions that came in before this show, and the first one is pretty vague, but anyways, any tips for individuals out there who are trying to create a tabletop pencil and paper?
Start doing it right now, and expect that you won't have something that gains traction for at least 5 years. Maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe some people are just natural born designers, and they can write well, and they can look at things critically. And when people give them feedback, they don't immediately just crumble into a heap on the floor and trash their whole system and start over again. They take the criticism well. But it's like any creative endeavor, and it sounds so weird to call it art, but there's an art to it. There's a craft. And there's an art, and those are two different things. And it takes a while to hone that. If you're looking for experience, there's all sorts of ways to get out there on the internet. You can find game companies that are offering the opportunity to write and do some design work and contribute to their games. You find your favorite games and find those companies and find out what outlets they provide and get your foot in the door and start to get a little bit of feedback from a professional if at all possible. Get involved in RPGA and other the Pathfinder Society and the different living campaigns. And just get to know people, and at some point somebody's going to come along and say, "Hey, you said you were interested in writing a little something for us. Well, here, I'll put you in touch with so and so, and they'll talk to this person." And it kind of builds that way. And most of what I did when I was freelancing was built from just having my name passed up the pipe.
Would you say that if an individual were to go the route of creating their own tabletop pencil paper RPG, that it would be beneficial for for them to maybe gain some name recognition on building, like one-off adventures or mods off of basically pre-existing
freelancing for
Yeah.
established games.
Yeah.
It can't hurt unless your modules suck. But yeah, I mean, it certainly helps. I think to have a little bit of credit in the background. That's not to say that you can't design a game from the get-go with no published credits, and you can have it be successful. But there are people that do it. It's harder. It's a lot harder.
What do I kind of?
And on top of it, you build some credits so people might recognize your name. People coming in, like there might be people that normally play D&D, and they say, "Oh, hey, this guy's making this thing. I know that name," and they look it up, and it's like, "That's the guy who wrote Baba Yaga's Dancing Hut in Dungeon Magazine back in 2011. I love that adventure. This guy, I'm going to check it out." And also, you build a network of industry professionals, because I'm happy to say that when this thing launched, I had people who came, a good number of people that started dropping promotional stuff on Facebook and on their Twitter and through their own various sources that like known names in the game industry world who I've gotten to know over the years who had some involvement in the game or who have read it at least, and in some cases just said, "Hey, yeah, I'll promote you," just because we love to see people expand the game industry. There's more games is better. It's
Right.
just that simple. If the industry is not growing, it is dying. There's no status quo. There's not really any such thing as a status quo. If you're not building and growing, you are shrinking and dying. So more games. So if people out there who want to design something, give it a shot. The first one might suck. The second one will suck less. The third one will suck less, and at some point you'll have something that gains some traction. This is like the fourth game I've designed. The other three we won't talk about. There was one that gained a little bit of traction personally in my head, but I was also overshooting. It was too big. It was too robust. I kept it simple for this one.
So what about why can't you had a questionable that back about it, shipping outside of the U? Or is there actually any shipping with the M&A? I thought it was, you fulfilled it through the RPG thingamabobber.
And then you have to pay for you personally would be the shipping.
Right. The 15 level. $15 backer level gets you the PDF of the book, and this is about the size of the book. Add about 15 sheets of paper into this once all the artwork and everything else is in it. So it's a pretty hefty book, assuming we hit all the stretch goals.
I don't know. I can't use it as a weapon.
You'll get that,
Oh,
and you'll get PDFs of all of the support materials. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. There's going to be adventures and some other stuff, and some of that stuff's already described on the Kickstarter page. I'm slowly trickling out the support materials to as we go along. So you get everything in PDF form. For $20, you get everything that I just said, and you're also getting a thank you in the book and all that. You're getting all of that, and then you're also going to get a code that you can take to drivethrurpg.com and get a softcover or hardcover, your choice, printed and shipped at cost. And what that means is nobody gets no profit. They print it and ship it for what it costs to make. And this is all part of an agreement that then I will put the book there, and they will get a percentage of the book going forward.
Right.
After the Kickstarter. Point of note. This, if you buy getting it through the Kickstarter, is the cheapest you're ever going to get the game. It's going to be more expensive on DriveThruRPG after the fact, by a few bucks at least. And so you get this code, you input it, get yourself an account, you can set it up really easily. It's very quick. You input that, and then you order a softcover or a hardcover, and it'll cost you approximately, if you're in the U.S., it's going to print in the U.S., it's going to ship in the U.S., it's going to cost about $5 to print the softcover book. It's going to ship for about $5. If it's a hardcover, same $5 for shipping. The cost will be about $10. So
$5 get the hardcover.
Between the $20 you spend on the Kickstarter just to get, to back it and to get the code and to get all the PDF, everything in PDF form as well, you spend another $15. You're going to be getting a roughly 170-ish page hardcover book, plus over 100 pages of support material. I went through and did a count. It's going to be over 100 pages of PDF support material. For and hardcover shipped to your door for roughly $35. Beat that.
Yeah.
$35 for what is ostensibly 270 pages worth of game material, and the books come in hardcover. $35.
Yeah.
If you wait until January of next year to buy it at Drive-Thru RPG, it's going to cost you more than $35 to get the hardcover.
So you're saying
Probably going to cost $40.
I should buy it now, buy like 100 copies now, and then sell them next year for profit.
I'm still looking at the situation as far as buying multiple physical copies. I was originally not planning to do that, but I'm starting to think maybe I'm going to because I know that there are people who would like to buy multiple physical copies.
Like bring them to conventions and sell them?
Well, they want to get some
Game
for their game
stores.
group. They want to buy one for a gift for somebody. I know somebody that wants to buy it so that they can have one nice pristine copy they can put on the shelf because they contributed to the book and they want to keep it.
Oh yeah.
And then one that they can play with. That they can wreck.
See, I want to put like my wrecked book like on the bookshelf. I like having that feeling of love.
You want the battle scars on it to show how much use it's gotten.
Like I know my books.
You want to wreck the book.
Like my books on my bookshelf. I don't want them to have a pristine spine. Like I've never read my books.
Whacked Kid, in one sentence, convince people to support M&A. If you've ever worked in an office setting or really in any sort of setting where your boss has at some point tipped you off, this game gives you the chance to pretend to beat the living crap out of them or maybe even kill them, and you don't have to get a new job afterwards or go to jail.
Unless you play with your boss.
Yeah, well, that
all bets are off at that point.
That's a poor choice on your end.
So speaking of setting up scenarios for mergers and acquisitions, Craig, personally, if there was any IP, be it movie, be it book, whatever, that you wish that you could incorporate into mergers and acquisitions, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna answer this in two parts.
Okay.
The first is the fun little thing that happened earlier, beginning of this week. I got talking with Mike.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know Mike.
Yep.
He's doing the layout on the book. He's a good friend of mine. Somehow we got talking about Austin Powers, and specifically we got talking about sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads. And I thought that is a monster that should have been in the monster section of the book.
Yes.
So I designed it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'm going to put it in the book, but I went ahead and designed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is literally called Shark with a frickin' laser beam attached to its head. So instead of having a one-line title, it's got like a three-line title for the monster. And it's got a power called frickin' laser beam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as like if I could pull an IP and put it into the game, I've often referred to the movie Office Space. I've used characters from Office Space as pre-gens. I've turned them into characters in the game and used them in demos for cons. In fact, if you come to MomoCon, some of the characters are characters from Office Space. I think it would be fun to have the characters from Office Space written up because I've often talked about how, instead of Peter and Samir and the guys hauling the printer out to beat it with a baseball bat, what if they hauled that prick Lumberg out and beat him in the field with a baseball bat to the soothing sounds of "Feels good to be a gangster."
You may be onto something here.
And then the printer would and then they in the middle of just railing on this guy, they would cut back to the printer and it would say, PC load letter or whatever the error is, would just be sitting there blinking, and then cut back to just slam. But there's a lot, if you got the Bobs,
right?
You got the somebody's got a case of the Mondays lady. You could have her statted up so you could push her down an elevator shaft.
Oh wow, there's endless potential.
There's so much potential. I mean, even the peripheral characters that don't work at the office. Lewis, is it Lewis, right? The neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
He's screaming at Peter through the walls to turn on such and such a channel because there's boobs. Telling you what he would do if he had $1 million. Two chicks at the same time, man. Look at me. I need $1 million for two chicks to do me. So something like that. Yeah, that movie's got potential.
Absolutely. Damn, I didn't even think about that.
PC load letter. What the hell does that mean?
Let me tell you about TPS reports.
Yeah, Bob, let me tell you something.
Okay, so we have some visuals from your manual.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to show them real quick. So we'll just switch over to
some of the stuff you guys have seen. Some of you have seen before.
I want to see it all again.
Sweet.
I'm gonna try to come on.
Come on, you can do it.
Apparently I can't.
You can do it. Come on, PDF.
Scratch that. And there's the front cover.
Stretch it like you mean it.
If you come to MomoCon, there will be a sign that looks a lot like that. Instead of employee manual on the bottom, it will say 1 hour demos. It's about it'll be It's like, I don't know, it's like 15, 16 inches tall. It's a big sign that'll be sitting on the table. That's where I will be for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at MomoCon.
You'll have
So
your spot.
you're there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yep, all day on those 3 days. I might hang around in the evening. It depends on how much Kickstarter management I need to do.
Well, Wax Kid, you know you're going to be at MomoCon.
Yes, I have scheduled an interview and demo time with Wax Kid.
You
As
know,
of yesterday.
Well, you know, we got 2 panels too.
you know, there are things happening in the evening on Friday. Just saying. White Kid.
What's going on Friday?
We have 2 panels.
Sir, I might be doing with TPS reports.
Right. Anyways, White Kid, if I understand that you do want to do higher tier levels, and they are all sold out. But I'm sure that if you know, you I don't know. I'm sure that if you sweet talk Craig, maybe he can work something out for you. But because as soon as it went live, I was the first one to pledge the $65 level. I'm very proud of that, by the way.
With Craig, I recommend going with the acquisitions route over the murder route.
Yeah, that would probably be beneficial to all.
There's the potential for some other little backer level bumps for some other things that might go in there. I've been in a little bit of, I've been ruminating on it a little bit after I got contacted by a backer who said, you know, I'd love to, you know, get a little more something or this or that into the game. The only thing that, you know, it can't be more illustrations. I've got plenty to wrangle. That's done. It can't be anything that gives special content. To the game, because I've been advertising this all along, is you get everything. If you back at 15 levels or higher, you get everything. Nobody gets special something for a few extra bucks.
I thought I was special, Craig.
You know, I'll give you something special. And it can't significantly affect my schedule because I am hard down on getting this thing out by December. I can't add something that's going to suddenly slap another month or 2 onto the schedule.
So
there's only so many things that could happen.
Why would you need stickers for murders and acquisitions?
Stickers.
Every other Kickstarter has stickers for $5.
There will be no stickers. There will be no dice. There will be no mouse pads. There will be no T-shirts. No, I'm not a swag store. I am making a game. I have no interest in trying to make all of
I want
stuff.
that on my shirt and to wear it to work.
Do you want an Argyle sweater?
And frankly, that stuff, just all that other stuff would just add a significant time to me getting stuff shipped out. Suddenly I'd have to sit there and go through everybody's orders and say, okay, somebody gets this and this and this, but this person gets this and that, but not this, but this. And, you know, it'll take weeks and weeks to get stuff shipped out because I don't have that much free time.
It also creates a real cost out of your pocket.
Yeah, and it intentionally breaks the bank on me.
Yeah.
If shipping costs suddenly go up, or if I get a lot of international shippers, all of a sudden I'm in the red again.
Because right now you know exactly what your costs are because you're not shipping anything. Or if you start doing all of a sudden stickers and shirts and hats, you can estimate
the shipping,
with the exact
the physical product is going to you as inexpensively as it really can.
And it's not costing you anything though. That's the beautiful.
It's not costing any of my time, and I didn't have to account for it in my numbers. My numbers go toward getting people paid for doing their work.
Okay, yeah.
It's this fun thing that happens, and I don't want to say it's a reseller type of thing, but there are organizations out there, there's businesses out there that have zero inventory that utilize a distributor to actually give you the inventory. So you don't have to pay a ton of money up front to get all the books printed. You're utilizing Drive-By RPG to actually get the
Drive-By RPG.
Whatever. Drive-through RPG. Drive-By RPG, drive-through, whatever. You can do a drive-by in MERS and acquisitions.
That makes me laugh because I recorded a podcast last night. It'll be up soon, where one of the guys on the podcast referred to Mergers and Acquisitions as Grand Theft Auto Office Edition.
Mm. Oh yeah.
For the video game crowd, does that qualify? Do you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the Office version of GTA.
That would work. Okay, so we've got a couple.
I will not be there on Thursday. I will be.
I will not.
Friday through Sunday.
I've been toying with the idea of maybe popping in there on Thursday because last year I actually was on a panel on Thursday that was pulled in to at the last minute by Eddie Webb, and oh my God, did I feel completely out of place on that panel because you're talking about guys who have written and like RPG stuff for like 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah, they've been working for a decade plus.
Minimum. And here I am going, I once upon a time wrote an RPG that I didn't publish. but the thing is, I was really just like the liaison between the potential game developers and the Georgia Game Developer Association, the International Game Developer Association, because ironically, no one really knew any information about that on the entire thing. So yeah, that was my.
You were the Chris Hardwick.
Yes, that was the Chris Hardwick. So I wish I was making his money right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Multi-millionaire.
All right, so let's see what we got here. Aha! Cosmic horror.
Ah!
All right, so this is one of the stretch goals, right?
Yeah, that's the 4th stretch goal. It's announced, but not with a dollar amount. There's a little blurb on the Kickstarter that tells you what it's all about. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite game chapter titles because I really dig how the tentacles coming up
That is pretty
out of
rad.
the keyboard key.
I really want a keyboard now, just that has a tentacle.
Graphic designer Jen, awesome. She did great graphic design work.
Wait, they
can we assume that there's going to be some Masatonic University involved in this?
You could certainly come up with one, but it's the game is kind of set around an office. So
well, sure, fine.
more importantly, there is an office called a company called Blackwell and Thorn, because it needs to be named something like that.
Yeah.
Who may have made a pact with some abominable horror from beyond the edge of our reality. Almost certainly has made a pact.
It reminds me. Have you ever seen Angel season 5?
I've seen all of Angel.
It reminds that little synopsis reminds me of season 5 a lot.
This is a game that you can actually simulate what Angel very easily. You take the core rules, set it at Wolfram and Hart, slap in some magic and some monsters, and throw cosmic horror in there for the senior partners.
Craig, I want to do like a serious M&A game now centered around freaking Angel.
There you go. Gamer for life.
Oh, I love that show.
Oh, and a little bit of tech too, because Buffy and Angel every so often have weird cyborgy tech gizmos.
I thought you were going to say sex.
No, that's it.
That's it.
And some of that.
Yeah. All right, so let's see what else we got here.
And you have a god.
Some of the illustrations you've seen before. I threw a few of them in there. We can kind of zip through them. A number of different artists. You'll notice the artistic styles are different.
Kid Rock, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
It does look like it.
Chris Rock, yeah.
Not Kid Rock. God
Kid
damn
Rock.
it! This son of a bitch. No, there's a story.
to it.
We'll do it after the.
We'll get to it.
Thursday
Sure, gotcha.
It's terrible.
But I got a bunch of different artists, and I gave them kind of parameters for. I want artwork that's black, white, grayscale for the interior that is kind of in this general realm of realism.
Mm-hmm.
Not super duper photorealistic, although this one is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
But not cartoony, kind of in between. And so they're different artists with the different styles, and they're being selected for different pieces based on kind of what their style kind of goes with.
Mm-hmm.
And then several of them are doing likenesses for backers who are getting their ugly mug into the book.
Some of them will be uglier than others.
Like Charlie here. Do we want to tell people what Charlie's going to be looking like in the book? What he's going to be doing?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be a frazzled office employee who is being polygraphed.
Taking a polygraph test.
Yes.
So he's going to have the straps around his chest and the little
I'm
doodads
really-
on his fingers, and he's going to look really nervous.
I'm not sure I actually want to buy this book now if Charlie's in it.
No, it's
Seriously?
gonna be good.
Seriously.
Is Charlie in it? I don't know.
You won't even know it's me.
You can tear that page out and screw the
Sorry.
rules.
I'm not removing the backing, man. I'm just talking about the drive-through.
Look, how about this? Craig will supply you with a Sharpie, and you can just Sharpie that
Sharpie the
page
whole
out,
thing.
okay?
That's just the illustration.
All right, that works, man.
Of course, every single time I see
That
this
could be a new
image,
support level. Take out one character you don't like.
this image always pisses me off because that
Whoa.
damn janitor was never there during our playthrough when we could have used him
Okay.
to get his keys to unlock a certain
He
door.
wasn't the first one, though.
Right. But the second one, he was literally taking a smoke break the entire fucking thing. We're like, come upstairs. Like, I'll be up there in a second.
But the janitor is not at your beck and call. He's got stuff to do and
He
cigarettes
should.
to smoke.
Well, yeah.
Anyway. That's the weapons table. There's a fun little something coming up off of that because, go ahead.
Oh.
And then that's a desktop wallpaper, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo.
You can get that for free if you go to onto the web or onto the Kickstarter site. I've got a download link for that's the 4:3 ratio. There's also a 16:9 ratio, and my wallpaper dude is putting together a mobile device wallpaper too.
What about 16:8 resolution?
No, just 16:9.
I know, just check.
Now, of course, if I were playing Mercs and Acquisitions right now, I'd try to combine a couple of these weapons to probably either shoot myself, stab myself, electrocute myself, or somehow, I guess, hypnotize or like basically cause myself to become a drone through the cell phone.
Yep.
Because that's how Charlie plays Mercs and
You
Acquisitions.
got skills.
I know I do. In the wrong direction.
So she said.
Take the dragon!
Tech Dragon Fight. We've seen
I
that
love that
one
picture.
we've seen before.
I love the artwork. It's just awesome. With
That's
the characters.
Done by Becca Gowdy.
The chick doing that.
Someone's taking it full on. You got to do with the yield sign on top. That's what I'm talking about.
Yield to the
Good
dragon.
stuff. There's all the companies. Their company logos.
Yes.
The top 4 are the ones that are the kind of the core rulebook ones, and then the bottom 4 are the ones that will be in the stretch goal chapter.
Mondo Tech building a better you.
That's
Right.
that's the future tech.
That's what Cyberman said too.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, man. Here's your character archetypes.
Yeah, there'll be a pre-gen character sheet with a little bit of a history for the character, and then an illustration here for 5 different characters. They'll be right in the book. There'll also be individual PDF or individual PDF character sheets of each of those. Statted up at first level using the form fillable character sheet.
Mhm.
So you could just start playing with these characters and then actually progress them on the character sheet.
Nice.
If I had to just quickly go over these 4, 5, sorry,
Mhm.
5, without knowing anything, I would say that the top one is probably like your executive assistant or
The top right,
top left.
top left.
Executive assistant or secretary, whatever the fuck you want to call him.
Nope.
Damn it. Okay, the top right is basically the dude. He's basically the office. What do you call it?
Bitch.
No. Gopher. So basically, has
Same
to go
thing.
for everything.
To an extent, that character is he's a little bit of a jack of all trades. He's very broad based. He's one of those guys that wants to please everybody and find the right person to ride their coattails.
Okay.
So he's a little bit of a brown noser.
The bottom right spends way too much time in the gym and is a narcissistic SOB.
I don't know how narcissistic he is. That's your choice. That's personality. But he's a brute. Yeah, he's an ass kicker.
The one in the bottom left, I'm gonna go
It's
with
Tony Stark.
No, is that Tony Stark? That dude is all wrapped up in himself and making the
Yes.
important phone call.
He wants to
Narcissistic
run the
too.
marketing department. He's a schmoozer.
And then the middle one, I'm gonna go with boss.
Yep, she's actually the character background for her is that she was middle management for a long time, and then realized she wasn't going to have a decent retirement out of working in middle management. So she finally got her act together, and now she's assembled that little team around her to take her as high as she possibly can go. And she's gotten rid of her humdrum, boring attitude, and she's going to start taking names.
I like it.
Our serious effectiveness of weapons.
These are some of the little graphics that'll go into the book along with the illustrations to
Harsh
break up the
language.
page. Yeah, harsh language isn't terribly effective.
Does that depend on the player and what kind of language they use to?
Also the target, I would think.
And to an extent, sure. If the player says just the right thing and the target is particularly sensitive to that thing, then yeah, maybe.
You hurt my feelings.
Okay.
Tear.
Yeah, the synergistic redefinition.
Of the termination matrix and how they
Plotted
synergize
against-
together on the scatter plot.
Plotted against wheelhouse ideation.
Can we put this onto a pivot table later?
That's the graph that means absolutely nothing. It's the nonsense graph. I had fun with that.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of those words mean.
That's the best part of working in office.
They're all buzzwords, man. Don't worry about it. Okay, so this is a look at the woo,
Whoa, whoa,
oh my god, okay. Character
Whoa.
sheet. I don't know why all of a sudden my zoom is going, oh my god. Okay.
More
We're
sensitive.
just
more
gonna-
sensitive.
We've seen it before.
Yeah.
It's the form fillable character sheet. All those
Oh my god.
Whoa,
What the
whoa, whoa!
What did you-
I don't know what's going on!
all those blue fields, those you can fill those in, and when you print them, they won't print out, or you can just keep it on the tablet.
Oh my god. What the is going on?
What are you doing?
Don't use the mouse wheel!
I guess.
Don't use the mouse wheel! Jesus Christ. Okay.
But
next
if you
one.
but if you choose the drop down box, that will print on your character sheet if you print it.
No, it should just print the information, not the actual outline of the Dropbox, right? There should be
Correct.
a print version.
No, but if I'm doing
You can unhighlight the box.
that's a form fillable PDF.
Correct.
So I can fill it out to print my stats and.
No, that's what we're saying.
You can fill it out,
Yeah.
right? But the box, the blue field,
The actual blue field is not
print.
gonna
Okay.
The border won't print. And there's
Sharks with a freaking laser beam. That's what it said.
Nice.
Scotty Dogs.
He's a shaker one.
means he's pretty tough.
Body score increases to 9.
Apex
And I think
Telecom.
this is other stuff that you've saved up because that was the last thing I gave you. We're looking at the
Yeah, I think.
logos again.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
just,
this is all old from pre. There's your back cover.
With the
Back cover art.
gremlin in the background.
That's a homunculus.
homunculus.
Are we watching
A
Full Metal
magical,
Alchemist?
a magical servitor.
Keep going.
Where's Charlie going? Okay.
Jeez, had enough of our bullshit.
Tries to sweet talk Craig into something. Okay, well we'll see. We'll talk on Friday at MomoCon. Week from tomorrow. Yikes!
Is it really that far away? Goodness gracious.
It's that close. Jeez.
Yeah.
Um.
Okay, this mouse is messing with my head.
Yeah. Stop messing with everything. So, for those of you who are listening here right now on Thursday night, I'm just going to point out, see if we're still there.
We're still there.
We hit 100 backers a little while back. Yep, still at 100.
Nice.
I don't know that it's going to happen, but I can give it a shot. I'm going to promote it here. For those of you who are listening right now, if we hit the second stretch goal tonight by midnight Eastern time, I will release the character creation chapter and the rule system chapter as a PDF. It won't have any artwork or graphic design in it. It'll just be the text. But you can see what the game looks like.
Nice.
But that means like $250 in the next 3 hours and 10 minutes, which is unlikely, but it's possible, I suppose.
It could happen.
And if we don't hit it, then I'll have to see somebody give $250. Yeah.
That's totally reasonable.
No, that's not necessarily. That's not necessary. People who have already backed, don't go increasing your pledges. That's not
Great, I'm trying to help you.
the idea, and I appreciate it, but the idea is I'd like to see the game in as many people's hands as possible. I'd like to see more backers, and it's going to take a little while to get to the second stretch goal, and so be it. I mean, we're only 9 days in. This is just over a week in a 4-week campaign, so we're in really good shape.
The marathon.
Yes, it is a marathon, not a sprint, absolutely. So, if anybody is out there listening, I'll keep an eye on the total right now, and if I see the numbers go up, I'll assume it was you, and I will thank you personally on the show right now. Begin.
Yeah, begin right now. Do it.
Right now, go ahead.
There's nothing called.
I don't see anything. You know what? One of the greatest things about running a Kickstarter is watching the total go up. That's nice and everything, but there's what's called the dashboard. That has charts and graphs and lists of things that are happening, and I am fascinated.
Does it have the synergistic plot?
It does. I am fascinated by things in there because I've got little charts and graphs of things that I can look at for how everything's going. It has there's a little curve showing like it started off steep curve, and then it's just kind of slowly, it looks like the roller coaster just slowly ticking up. And then there's we hit we're over 700 now, but I happened to glance at it yesterday at one point when we were at exactly 666 video views. So I let Rob Schwalb know, friend of mine in the game industry, who released a game a while back through Kickstarter called Shadow of the Demon Lord, and his sign off whenever he's posting stuff is "Hail," as in Hail Satan. So I let him know that I hit 666 hail, and he hailed me back. I mean, it's up over 700 now, and it's getting a fairly good percentage of people that are actually watching through the whole video, which is nice. Backers. Let's play the quiz show. Furthest away backer, what country? Furthest from the United States.
India.
Korea.
There is a South Korean. New Zealand.
Woo!
Which might be as far as India. I'm not sure
Is
what
New
the flight time
Zealand
is. It's
closer than North Korea?
I think. Well,
Well,
Which one's
the
further
thing,
away?
the thing is,
New Zealand's farther than South Korea, but I don't know about India.
What's
And now you're looking at which way
which
you're
going?
going around the globe.
New Zealand's a 23-hour plane flight.
Yeah, it's long. Yeah, but there's a New Zealander. There's people in the UK. There's South
Nice.
Korea. There's Taiwan. There's
Who's the closest Kickstarter?
the closest are the two people. The
Hello.
closest.
Surprise!
Technically Charlie.
Oh, my kid just pledged.
And he overpledged, unless that was 215s. Let's find out.
He knows. Okay, so like you said, you're gonna be running this at
Oh,
MomoCon
seriously, I'm not logged in.
Friday,
because I am
Saturday, and
so logged in.
Sunday.
Yes, I'll be there.
You
Friday,
have
Saturday, Sunday.
a
Or
special
Yeah,
table?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be at a table right toward the front. Can't miss me. I'll be at that table the whole day.
Nice, very nice. Ultra Confusion will also be at a table Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with the exception of 8 and 11:30 at night. Well, actually, we'll be at our table the entire day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because the vendor hall will have closed by the time we're doing our panels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring my.
Okay.
Ooh, I need to get beverages.
Let's go.
Oh Lord. What's up, Nakamoto?
So,
No, that was Whack Kid overpledged. $30.
Oh, my kid.
Nice guy, good guy. Thank you. You get yourself a book.
Woo! All right. Let's see if do I have any. Okay.
Hello, Nakamoto.
So-
Satoshi.
So, Craig, one final question
Go back.
for you.
Murders and Acquisitions on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have one question. One last question, and this is for basically Kickstarters in general. And what is the any tips on how to do the how would you, if you were to give any advice to an individual who's about to start a Kickstarter, what would it be?
Plan it way in advance. I spent a year ramping up to this. I started researching how to do a Kickstarter a year ago.
Mhm.
Actually, I started the whole process of ramping up to the Kickstarter a year ago, and that involved also getting a website for the game and getting artists on board to do some of the preliminary stuff and all that. But I mean, I started researching the Kickstarter process and what it takes. I talked to a few people that ran successful Kickstarters. I did a lot of research. There are Facebook groups for it. The most useful one you will find to start with is it is a group that you have to be approved to join, but they generally will approve you unless you look like a troll or something. And it's called Kickstarter's Best Practices, and it's a great resource for asking questions. They just ask that before you ask questions, you go to the little pin post up top, which links you to a few different blogs where there are people out there who have essentially made their company out of Kickstarter and have blogged about pretty much everything you could possibly need to know about running a Kickstarter.
So you read a lot of that.
I read everything twice. Right away when I first got at it, and then as I started to get closer, I started to go through things again. And some of the posts I read more than twice because they were very applicable to me. Now the guy that did all this blogging, he does tabletop board and card games. So there's some stuff in there that's a little more board game oriented, but the bulk of it, like 85% of it easily is applicable to absolutely any Kickstarter. And just research and have all your ducks in a row and understand, very important, it is crowdfunding, and you will get the funding if you bring the crowd. You cannot show up on the Kickstarter and expect that people will just find you. Now, I've been lucky. I've had a good number of people because the dashboard allows me to track how people found the page. And I've had a good number that have just found it from going to Kickstarter and going to the Discover page and things like that and looking through different categories. But you can't expect to fund anything but the very smallest project by depending on Kickstarter to do the work for you. The suggestion that I've seen most often is that you got your funding goal, you should have 50% of that accounted for in guaranteed pledges from people that you know are going to bring it to the game or to whatever project right away. So you're going to, right out of the gate, and that's what happened with me. 50% funded in 3.5 hours. That was everybody I knew that was planning to fund got to work or got up at home and logged on and funded. And it gets everything off to a fast start. It allows the Kickstarter to gain some momentum. People that come looking at it later, they look at it and say, oh, this thing's really moving. It's got legs. It's gonna fund. I'm going to get on board. I'm going to get involved in this. A Kickstarter that starts up and only has $50 5 days later, you might as well just cancel now.
Other people are gonna look at it and be like, "That has $50." Really?
Yeah, they're gonna wonder what's wrong. What's wrong with this? And on top of it too, one of the things to keep in mind is that there are a lot of little pieces in the Kickstarter page. There's a video. There's the actual text of describing things. There's how many you've created, how many you've backed. There's personal information about you. There's all sorts of things in there, and you kind of have to hit all of those because Kickstarter is at the point now where there are plenty of people out there who have been burned by having projects not deliver at all, by having projects deliver 2, 3, and 4 years late.
Or not deliver completely.
Well, right, not deliver at all, or they only got part of what they were promised, and then
Which is what I got.
and the creator said, "Well, that's all I got for you. It's done." And it's a gamble.
Right.
Kickstarter is a gamble. Understand understand that as a creator as well as a backer. That you've got people out there that are going to be a little gun shy about stuff, and I hate to say it, but there are some people who are looking. They want to back you, but they are looking for a reason not to. If you go up there and you don't have a video, they go, "Well, this person didn't even take the time to put together a video." Moving on to the next thing. If they look at your personal information and they see that you haven't backed any Kickstarters yourself, they're like, "Well, this person just doesn't believe. They're just trying to make a buck. They're not part of. They're not interested in being part of the crowdfunding community as a whole." If the main page is just a six high scroll down a wall of text with no title breakups, with poor paragraphing, with no images, they're going to look at that and say that's terrible. If there's not a web page that's built, I mean, if this a Facebook page dedicated to whatever it is you're creating, or a web page dedicated to it, even if it's just your own personal page where you're blogging about the thing, shows that you've put some time into it. Anything that you show on there, like, I mean, I commissioned artwork on my own pocket. That's another thing too. Put money into it yourself before you start asking strangers to put money into it.
So have you seen the news?
What's the news?
What? No, I'm serious. We got big news.
Okay.
I haven't said anything for 5 minutes.
No, that's not the big news.
He's nodding.
No, that is not the big news.
What?
Well, what? Do you see something?
Yeah, that's a lie. Well, who did what?
No, look at the pledge.
I understand that.
Yes.
Somebody did a $250 pledge. That's no.
White kid.
No. Rein it back in, Wet Kid. I appreciate it. Knock it back down. Funny, very funny.
So one of the things that a lot of people that are basically uninitiated to the Kickstarter thing, that personally, I don't know, from my point of view, not having done a Kickstarter myself, is that a lot of people think that when you put a Kickstarter up there, some people have the vision of, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money off of this. And from all the individuals who I've talked to who've run successful Kickstarter campaigns, is that you're literally looking for, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you're literally looking for cost and maybe a little bit of extra wiggle room just in case like shit hits the fan or you need a little extra something. Like one of the Kickstarters that one of my buddies made, who went all the way through. At the end of the day, he had to like put an additional $1,000 in because he didn't really think about all of the physical extra, the T-shirts, the posters, the stickers. Shipping
will murder a Kickstarter if you're not really well planned for it. And some people do stuff where there's some amount of shipping involved, and they create really tight margins so that they don't have to have a funding goal that's too high and stretch goals that are too high. And then and if the project isn't ready to go almost immediately, now they've got stuff that they still got to finish up. Now suddenly they are running the risk, and this has happened to people that I know, they are suddenly running the risk, shipping rates just went up.
Oh yeah.
Shipping rates just went up in the past year for certain types of shipping. Now for me with doing an RPG, for US backers, not a huge deal because I can ship a book up to a certain size media mail, and it's very reasonable. Right. But if I was shipping T-shirts and dice and other things that were heavy, if I was doing a board game or even just a deck of type card game, all of a sudden, my shipping costs go up. And then it's a whole nother thing where, international shipping can be a real bitch regardless. Right. If you go to, even for the drive-thru RPG stuff, if you go and look at the shipping costs, like this New Zealand person, they're going to be paying, standard shipping, they're going to be paying for low double digits for their shipping. They're going to be paying like $12 or $13. If they want premium shipping, it's going to cost them $20+
right.
to get, whatever their premium shipping package is. If it's registered mail or whatever it is, so that they have a little more control over it.
Okay, so Nakamoto, this is actually an argument and a conversation or topic that has gone on forever. When individuals they pledge a certain amount of money to a project, and that project then sells for a huge chunk of change to someone else. The supporters see nothing of it. Yes, when you pledge, you're not actually buying. You're not putting money in towards a share of the company. You're basically putting in money like starter capital.
But I
for
think that's
just
his
the
question:
product.
is the idea of you're actually buying shares?
No,
No.
No,
You're
that's
not.
what he's asking. though,
Right, no,
is,
but that's what I'm
what about
saying.
that idea of doing that instead? Well, then
I know a lot of the people who threw like hundreds of dollars into getting the Oculus kickstarted now feel gypped that that they sold it off to Facebook for billions and billions of dollars, and they're not seeing anything. It's not an investment. Okay,
No,
that's the
at
thing
all.
you have to understand. It's not an investment.
You have to keep that in mind. It is strict. Kickstarter, all crowdfunding are strictly not an investment. In fact, it's actually in the terms of service for doing a project. There are a number of things that you can't do. You can't do political fundraising. You can't treat it like an investment. I mean, you have to even be careful about the wording you use. I mean, I'm not giving you. When you see people constantly referring to pledges for rewards, that's the terminology that's important,
Right.
Because it's treated differently than a pre-order system or an investment system. That's not what it is. It's not any of those things. It's a gamble, and going into Kickstarter, you have to know it's to be a gamble. And I feel bad for the Oculus backers who didn't get what they were asking for, what they pledged for, and what they thought they were getting. But it was a gamble. Buyer beware.
Well, it's
And people are getting burned every so often. And there's
Absolutely.
projects that have gone. There was what happened with the cooler thing, the cooler that had the radio and the whole
Yeah.
holders
It
and all
looked
that.
pretty cool.
It looked really cool, and it went completely kerplooey. And
Yeah.
everybody that backed for this, $100 or whatever super cooler
Yep.
for their drinks and stuff, with all these cool features and things in it. It was like the transformer of coolers that had all this stuff in it. They didn't get anything. That's the nature of the beast, which is why Murders and Acquisitions is nice, because you're only up $15-20. If you got a illustration in there, well, suck it. Sorry, you might be out a little bit more, but that's not going to happen. It's all under control. But yeah, it's a gamble, and so the people who are out, there could potentially be a lawsuit. There could be something that happens that gets that back for them, and there may not, or there may be a lawsuit that doesn't really get them very much of anything back. And I'm sorry, but you are shit out of luck.
But and the thing is, there's tons of instances of that on Kickstarter right now, and I know that a lot of people have been turned away from potentially doing future pledges or even starting to like pledge or donate to a Kickstarter project simply because people hear the horror stories. It's the same in every single facet of media. The bad news always makes the biggest news. So when shit hits the fan in Kickstarter, oh god, all Kickstarter projects must be tainted. No one's actually delivering anything. Type of mentality. The fact is, there's a lot of Kickstarter. Yes, there's a lot of Kickstarters out there who will never be able to do all that they said they're going to do. But there's a lot of Kickstarters out there who actually deliver.
Yeah,
and
you don't hear about the success stories.
No, of course not.
You hear about the crap stories.
Yeah, I pledged for the first time I ever pledged on Kickstarter was for a web series, and I pledged high enough to get my name in the credits, and then additional. I was also at the level where I would get a personalized piece of art from, because there's 2 web comic artists that are in this web series. I was going to get a personalized piece of art from each of them, plus a signed book from one of their web comic series. I didn't get any of that art. The only thing I got was my name in the credits. Why did I not get any of that art? Because here's the fun thing. If the actual individuals who are the centerpiece of that Kickstarter are not actually the creators of the Kickstarter, there's a chance that they won't have all the information. Because what happened was it was the producers, the people who were actually putting on the basically recording the video, that were in charge of the Kickstarter, and then they left after they finished and basically took that Kickstarter list with them.
Mm-hmm.
So the artists were like, well, we don't know who the hell needs what.
Yeah.
So that's just,
There's a D&D documentary movie that was being made via Kickstarter. I backed it. It's the one thing that I'm closest to being screwed over on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because it's been tied up in litigation because the team that was making the thing basically fell to infighting, and they split into two groups, and they've been fighting over the rights for the footage of all the interviews that they did. So now it's been just floating and floating and floating and floating. It's been well over a year since any progress has been made on the thing. I'm counting that, $40 or whatever it was I pledged for the DVD. I'm counting that as a loss. That's gone. If it comes back, if I get it, that's great. But I'm assuming that it's gone.
Speaking of established properties, have you heard? There was a news story that just broke about how I guess the people who own Gene Roddenberry's estate or whatever, it turns out that they can't actually legally copyright Klingons.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So now it's
the Klingon language.
Yeah.
You can't copyright a language. So now all of a sudden, Paramount doesn't own that language anymore. So people can start using it in their own property, in their own personal. They can build stuff and they can have people speak Klingon because you can't copyright and own a language. Yeah.
Which of course still doesn't get those the fan video that was built basically around the Star Trek universe that has been I guess in litigations for over a year now, where they basically I don't even remember the whole stipulations, but they built this entire thing. I mean, they spent a ton of money. Of course, it was all crowdfunded, so people are paying money. Here's one thing: if you're kickstarting
Just one thing.
a fan created something for an established property or IP, make damn sure they have the rights to do so. Otherwise, you just threw money down the rabbit hole and you'll never see it. And you'll never see the actual product created because chances are the actual product holder will come after them. Yes, well, I didn't see, okay, so CBS is rebooting Star Trek, and I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't think reboot's the right word for it. They're
rebranding?
They're just doing another show. It's going to be in the universe, but it's going to be far enough distant. My understanding is it's going to be far enough distance from the previous series that it's not going to need to rely upon any of that stuff.
It's like basically entirely new universe. I mean, it's still the Star Trek universe.
It takes place after all of the other series.
But it's an independent series.
Yes.
Is what it comes
the
down
point.
to.
The point is that it doesn't take place during the original series era. It doesn't take place during the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager era. It doesn't take place during the Enterprise era.
I think
so it doesn't have to cross with any of that stuff. It can be its own thing. It's like this is what happened to Star Trek, the Star Trek universe, and the Federation post the events of the end of Voyager. I guess
it's basically
the last thing we saw, or though I guess maybe the last couple Next Generation movies. However, the timeline worked out for all of those.
Basically, opening up to an entirely new audience without having to watch the previous stuff.
Yeah, you don't need to. You just need to know kind of what Star Wars is, but you don't need to necessarily know a great deal about this cast or that show.
If you know what the Enterprise is, you're good.
And they'll do what they did with when they redid Next Generation too, when they reintroduced everything, was they kind of, they spend a little bit of time just every so often during different episodes. They remind you, okay, here's what the Federation of Planets means. Here's some of the races that are involved in it. Here's the people, like you learn that the Vulcans were one of the first, and you learn that the Klingons, there's a history there, and then the Romulans, with Next Generation, like the Romulans were an enemy and they had disappeared, but then they came back, so they built that up. And they'll take the things that are part of the universe and they'll trickle them back in, and they'll explain for the new audience what those things are.
Right.
Okay, so question
and
for
how
you.
they're being treated in the new series.
So you're obviously a Trekkie, which is great.
A little bit.
But say I want to watch Star Trek. Where's a good place to start? And don't just say the first one because it's the first one.
Next Generation.
What's a good
Next
place to start?
Generation.
That's the place to start.
Ideally, second.
Oh, here we go.
Assume I don't have 8,000 hours to devote to Star Trek 2.
If you don't have a ton of time to devote to Star Trek, the time to start is the beginning of the third season of Next Generation.
Okay.
The first season is incredibly bumpy. It's very there's only probably about, in my opinion, maybe 5 or 6 episodes in there that are really solid. The second season gets uneven again because it changes up the dynamic of the cast in a fairly significant way with the loss of Beverly Crusher and Dr. Pulaski coming in. Second season, I mean, you could watch some of the second season. Spoilers, just know that Tasha Yar died in the first season, and when that whole storyline plays out later, that'll make sense. The third season is where it hit its stride.
Okay.
And of course, it ended with, one of the, still people would consider maybe the top 5 best cliffhanger moments of a TV show, which was, at the end of the third season of Next Generation, Mr. Worf fire after Jean-Luc Picard had been taken by the Borg, and Riker was in charge, and they were going to go ahead and just shoot him down.
Yep.
That was like, nowadays that type of thing gets discussed to death on the internet in a week. Back in the day when there was no internet, that was what everybody was. Everybody in my circle was talking about that all summer long. Every time I talked to a friend, we talked about what was going to happen next, and everybody knew that Jean-Luc Picard wasn't going to die, but we still talked about what was going to happen.
What was this Borg name?
Locutus of Borg.
There it is, Locutus. No, so just a side note here. When I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to watch much TV, but the one thing that my family sat down and watched every single week was Star Trek Next Generation. That's what we had. That was the one time we had TV on during dinner, and I ate that up. Of course, my favorite character was Data. I love Data.
Imagine that.
And somehow I found out about like the novels about when Worf was growing up and going to Star Academy, and it was weird. It really was.
And his mother and father, the Rozhenkos.
Yeah. Yep. That's them.
So you seen
And I don't remember their first names.
I don't
Their last name was Rozhenko.
I see you've seen every Star Trek episode.
Next Generation.
Maybe not everyone, but pretty close.
Okay.
I've seen all the Next Generation episodes. I've only seen a handful of the original, a handful of Deep Space Nine, maybe like one or two Voyager.
I watched them all pretty solidly, and then when Enterprise started, I kind of started watching it, and then fell out of kind of I don't know. But a while back, the wonders that is Netflix
Yes.
allowed me to watch, and I was able to binge it a little bit, where I could watch a few episodes at a shot, and I got into it more when I could absorb more quickly. And I went through and I watched that whole season, the series, and
Which series?
Enterprise,
Okay.
the last one. And
Just
I
waiting for him to do it
I will be fair. The great thing I love about Enterprise is that they get their asses kicked on a regular basis because they don't have the super duper tech. They polarize the hull rather than activating shields, and they polarize the hull, and they still get their asses handed to them. And on top of it, it has a great play in. There's a 2-episode, I think it's 2 episodes if I remember correctly, 2-episode arc that plays into the mirror universe that was established in the original series, and that was played out a little bit on Deep Space Nine with a few episodes where there was with the evil versions of the good characters and the good versions of the evil characters, and they played that out really, really nicely on Enterprise. I'm a doctor, not a millennial. Wax Kid, I gotta ask you before because we're getting close to wrapping up here. I gotta ask you: are you damn serious about this? I want to be sure because this is not necessary. We're gonna hit it eventually, one way or the other. I don't want this suddenly. This is a big deal. I want to be sure that you are good with this. You got to say yes or no, or modify your pledge if you're going to. If this is what we in the Kickstarter business call being an angel backer, where somebody comes in and over pledges in a big way.
Yep.
For their own personal reasons that don't necessarily have a great deal to do with the project or the creator or their relationship with the creator. Because Wax Kid, we've talked a few times, but I don't really know you. We haven't met in person. We won't until a week from tomorrow. And I appreciate this,
Still
but
can't believe that Momocon's that close.
you don't have to do this.
You do have to go to his hotel room. Just
Okay, so while we wait for Wax Kid's response here, where can everyone and anyone find you, Mr. Craig Campbell?
You can find me at, you can go to the nerdburgergames.com website. That's for the game. The Kickstarter, of course, is Murders and Acquisitions on Kickstarter. There's the nerdburgershow.com. That's for my podcast. That's a weekly deal. Episode went up yesterday where we talk a ton about how the Kickstarter went. And we didn't even touch a lot of stuff that we talked about here. We went through it like hour by hour, talked about how everything went in those first few days. There's a Facebook / Nerdburger Games, but you can find out information there. And you can go to the RPG Academy podcast. That's the one podcast that I did that I've recorded recently, and it's gone up the interview is available. They're going to be doing a written review as well. There's another podcast that I recorded last night that'll go up soon. Actually, the last 2 nights I've recorded podcasts, both of which will go up soon. And then there's just like a text interview that I did with a blogger that's going to go up tomorrow morning. And I'll be posting all of this stuff at nerdburgergames.com on the blog page once I get a chance to sit down and put the whole thing.
Well, there you go.
I want to split the 250 into even parts, but I heard Craig was going to do something. So 250 can be met by midnight or so. Yeah.
But he's basically at the end of it, it's going to make total sense because that 250 doesn't get nailed, it doesn't get charged until the end of the Kickstarter.
Right. He mentioned that earlier in his text here was that he can
let it ride.
Make sure that he's squared away to be able to be charged for that.
Yeah.
At the end of the Kickstarter. Keep in mind, I mean, when it says at the end of the Kickstarter, it's at the end of the Kickstarter. It's usually, my experience has been, a Kickstarter that I've backed ends, and within a few hours, I receive notice that I've been that I've been charged, that the money has gone. So,
and hopefully you don't get
June 7th, 9 p.m. Eastern time was when everything goes. So,
which of course Craig will then give me personally a specialized, personalized merchant acquisitions the very next day because that's my birthday.
That's true. I saw that. Your birthday is the day after the Kickstarter.
Shut up! God.
June 7th, 9 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
What the hell is? What is 901?
I typed in one too many.
Anyways,
okay, Wax Kid. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I will be in touch. I have your email. We're going to talk a little bit.
So I do want to point out one thing, and I hope that this does not happen to you, Craig. But there is, when you are a Kickstarter, I guess, what is it, creator?
A creator. That's what they call themselves.
You not only get the email saying, if you've success, you've reached your goal, but you also get an email that is sometimes deflating, and that is, this is how many pledges is bounced.
Yep.
So hopefully you get very minimal on that.
Yeah, and there's 2 things that I'm going to run into, and every Kickstarter does. You're going to get some people that cancel.
Yep,
I've had one cancellation so far. It strangely happened within an hour or 2 after we funded. I don't know why that happened, but somebody just chose to withdraw their pledge. I will probably see cancellations before the end, and I may very well see cancellations right at the tail end, even as people are jumping on board last minute.
Right.
And then there will be people who don't, their cards don't go through for whatever reason. Either they just their card expired, or they had to get a new card, or just other some other goof up on their end or something. I'll probably end up having to try to contact people. I've heard the stories that the creators use the messaging system within Kickstarter to try to get a hold of the people and say, hey, you know what, your card didn't go through. Can you talk to your card provider and get that cleared and get that squared away? And there will be a handful that may very well never go through. I just want to see that money.
Let me recommend one thing though.
That's expected.
When you use that message system, don't attach a spreadsheet of all the individuals' names who have pledged and if it bounced or not.
No.
That happened. That happened recently. I'm like, seriously? What? Okay, my payment went through, but that's kind of like, of course it didn't give like an amount, but it literally had like individual's name and bounced or successfully funded. And I'm just like, I don't know. That's a little weird.
No, I don't plan to send that. It's going to be just a straight up message of, hey, so and so,
give me your money.
Let me know, and we'll deal with it.
Please double check your pledges to make sure.
I expect it'll happen. It's just one of those stupid things that somebody suddenly decides they need to get a new card. They have to they hit the expiration date without realizing it.
Yep.
They accidentally pay for food at Taco Bell.
Or they
leave their card on their tray and throw it away.
They accidentally max out.
Yeah.
And don't have any more available credit, and they don't realize it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that there's a $15 pledge level for a reason, because $15 is very reasonable for getting 270 pages worth of game material. Because for some people, $15 is a lot of money. And that's one of the great things actually about the book version too, is that even for people where $20 is a lot of money, they can pay $20 for the Kickstarter at the end of the Kickstarter, and then a few months down the road, pay the additional 10 or 15 or whatever it is. They don't have to come up with $35, $40 right away at Kickstarter time if their budget is very tight.
You space it out, yeah.
Yeah, you basically pay in installments.
Just like everything else in my life.
Well, thank you, Whacked Kid. Wow, I am blown away, humbled, and flattered and thrilled that we're hitting a Kickstarter stretch goal, and I'm going to have to get my crap together and post the new stretch goal information.
I'm as Craig is
I'm not sure that I'll get to it tonight. It's starting to catch up with me. I'm going to go to sleep. I've got stuff prepped. And I should be able to get the information up there fairly quickly. But by this time tonight, there's not a lot of backers watching anyway, so they'll have to hang in there. Maybe overnight I'll get a couple more pledges on top there just to make me feel safe that we're cleanly over the stretch goal number. Just because we suddenly hit the stretch goal exactly, and 10 minutes after I leave, somebody cancels, and now we're not at the stretch goal anymore. And so the new information, additional information for the next stretch goal and some of the PDF support material is coming shortly. It will happen within the next day, certainly, probably, much less than a day.
Right.
By the time I do have to go to work tomorrow, so I have to figure out when I'm going to sit down and put all. Well, believe it or not, it's actually kind of a big chunk of work to do. I got to get the stuff on the Kickstarter page, and then I've got to update the blog stuff, and I got to update websites, and I got to go. And I've been doing this Kickstarter audio journal where I'm recording like how things are going. And I owe for one of those now pretty good, and it's there's a lot going on.
So. Anyways, we have reached the end of the All Too Confusion Thursday Night Hangout. So let's wrap this up. I do want to thank Craig Campbell for joining us on this Thursday Night Hangout to talk about his currently kickstarted game, Murders and Acquisitions. Please go over to Kickstarter. You can either Google Craig Campbell, search for Craig Campbell or Murders and Acquisitions. And you can, of course, pledge. There's plenty of time, but I would pledge now and not later. The funding, the campaign does run from until June 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Is that Eastern time or is it East? Whatever. Anyway, jeez. Anyway,
all caps. Somebody's screaming my name at me.
Yeah. Anyways, Craig, once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me and for being so supportive.
You're very
for
welcome.
Backing the game.
You're very welcome. And I guess thank you everyone who tuned in, and of course, Zelius, thanks for being the co-host, and we'll see you next Thursday, which will literally be a couple hours before I personally will be going to MomoCon to set up the fan table by my lonesome.
And thank you, Whacked Kid.
Yay,
for out of the blue, super backing. Wow,
super backer. We need to make a song for him, I think, to show off at MomoCon.
No, God, no.
Super backer.
No, stop now.
I might have to come up.
S-U-P-E-R-B-S-E-K-E-R.
I might have to come up with something to say some backer level type thing off the books for this kind of a pledge. I might have to think about that.
All right.
Maybe Whacked Kid and we'll both be at MomoCon. We'll talk a little bit.
So, anyways, thanks again for everyone tuning in, and we will see you next Thursday for another Thursday Night Hangout. And of course, if you are in the Atlanta area, of course, stop by the All Too Confusion fan table, our panels, and of course, Craig is going to be running hour-long sessions of Murders and Acquisitions Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Remember, kids, keep on gaming in the free world.
Amen to that, brother.